Yo. All right, man. Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's another Sunday, another day, another blessing, and as always, we always have a special guest in the building, man, and today is no exception, no different. So today, man, I definitely have in the building, man. I'm definitely honored to have Brother Darius Baxter in the building, man. The connect entrepreneur, I think, goes through. This is why I call this the mental breakthrough of faith, character, patience, and will. I think all those components are tested. You know, so we all get tested with those components. Before I kind of dig in though to all that, you have an interesting story. You do have an interesting story, and God put us all in position to go through things. I've had a post about that, to tell our story to help the next person, and could you tap in, talk a little bit? You lost your father when you was 9 years old. Is that something? Can you talk about that now, or is this something you can talk about now? Or, do you remember that, how you felt when you was young?
Yeah, of course. Let me make sure I'm set up straight for you, man. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
To always be tied back to that very traumatic point in my life. But the one thing that I want everybody to realize is that, I took that and I turned it into something beautiful.
Right.
As I've been, police officer being just like everybody else.
Right.
When we, personally, and it may not be a popular opinion, I don't necessarily see us having a benefit in defunding the police, because what we're seeing right now is there's a shortage of police across the country. I don't know what types of communities that people live in. I personally live in Northeast DC. I have a great relationship with police officers. But I remember the days my father coming home after working 3-4 days in a row.
Right.
I remember the days where this was him policing in 90s DC, and I can't imagine all of the different things that he saw out there.
Man.
He saw the lack of mental health support for police officers. It was, all right, you just saw a double homicide. All right, so let's wake up and do it all over again the next day.
Right.
It's impossible to believe that police officers are superheroes in the sense that they're experiencing all of these things, whether black, white, brown, or indifferent. And they're just supposed to get up and continue to do this over and over and over and over again.
Right.
In this moment in time, we need to be looking at how we provide better mental health support to police officers, not just casting them aside and saying that we don't need them. Because they have a job to do like everybody else.
Right.
We saw in a situation like George Floyd, you have a very extreme case of racism and bigotry occurring that results in the death of an amazing man. And I've had the opportunity to spend some time in Minneapolis and meet with people that knew him. He was an amazing man.
Right.
But that is an outlier. I know police officers that wake up, both men and women, in DC and around this country. They wake up every single day, kiss their family, and go out into a world to protect communities that oftentimes don't love them.
Right.
That takes a very special type of person, a very, very special type of person. And I have not seen cities, DC or otherwise, take proper steps to support police officers in the way that they can go out into a world with a fresh mind, with a clear heart, knowing that their mental health is going to be supported in a way that they can not be carrying years and years and years of PTSD and trauma from their job.
Right.
Of course, we're going to see these clashes and these tipping points when you're sending people out there into the world carrying all of that baggage every single day.
Right. So that's interesting, because I do want to kind of get back a little bit of your background, but this conversation is going somewhere. So you out here, you're in the front lines. So what? Because it's bigger than, like you said, just the police, the active policeman. You're being out here. You're actually fighting the system to where, at heart, it's like, how is that being there on the front lines? One, how does it take a toll on you, because you meeting so many different families and you hear so many different traumatic stories, and you got your own to deal with. How does that take a toll on yourself? You doing this.
No, we're all family, so we can have real conversations. It's hard. It's very, very hard. The reason I'm over my mother's house today is I had an anxiety attack last night, and I drove straight over here in the middle of the night. And by the grace of God, I have a mother that loves me and opened the door. Cooked me a meal. But even when talking about police officers, I can speak from personal experience. It's like you have people like myself, and I'm one of millions of people that dedicate their life to service.
Yep.
And we're not necessarily taught balance. We're not necessarily provided resources to deal with all the things that we see in any given day. I've had to bury more kids that I see one day, and the next day I'm finding out they get shot in the head. And I think it's probably healthy, but that's what you sign up for when you enter this work. Hopefully the day changes where it's not.
Right.
And then, as you said, imagine taking on all of that burden in your day-to-day work, and then trying to be a normal 26-year-old, just at the bar shooting shit, talking about how, I don't know, the NBA bubble, something crazy happened there.
Yeah. It's hard. I could really relate, because when you in a certain this fire or this I feel like we're at war of good versus evil, personally. You know what I'm saying?
Every day.
So it's so much when you know that, and when you know that, it's kind of hard to delve into the distractions that everybody's talking about in the latest trends or whatnot. So is your escape, is that your escape? Your mom, just holler at your mom, chopping up with her, cooking. Is that how do you relieve some of that stress and burden of everyone else's drama? Is that who you vent to and things of that nature?
Yeah.
Okay.
My mom is somebody that's very special to me, and just family in general.
Right.
You need to have people in your corner that without a shadow of a doubt, on your good days and your worst days, that love you.
Yes.
But I understand the privilege that I carry to know that there's people in my corner that love and support me. And I understand that's very rare, particularly in this moment in time. People are having hard enough times loving themselves, let alone somebody else.
I've seen an interview where you said that you're walking into your mother's footsteps now, right? And I think all of ones that have family members of that's been in the struggle and has been trying to liberate our people, unawarely we walk into our parents' footsteps, not even knowing that's our divine purpose. So at what point in your life did it hit you that this is my blood, this is in my blood, this is where this is what I have to be doing? Like, what point did it hit you?
It wasn't necessarily any point. The same way, like you said, there's good and there's evil. I was blessed to grow up in a household where I had a father that was a police officer and a mother that was a DC public school teacher and still is. Grandmother, a lay woman in her church. My grandfather drove Metro. And all across my family, you see people that are social workers, activists, and doing different things. And that inevitably, like without even realizing it, I was always being groomed to enter into this work. Obviously, new generation, I have my own twist. I have a responsibility to make things.
Right.
We're talking about privilege. That was a privilege and a blessing for me.
Right.
The same way we can look at a young person that's growing up in Southeast, and they look around and all their family members are shooters.
Right.
And their family members on the corner, their family members just sitting in the house all day, and then inevitably they follow into that same footstep. Like, it wasn't necessarily a point in my life where I was like, damn, I want to go out here and try to make the world a better place. That was the only example I ever had.
Right. So let me ask you, I'm gonna start with, faith. Like, how has faith so far gotten you to this point to where you still can go on strong, in this fight? Because again, we all, especially as entrepreneurs or whatnot, hit a ceiling. I know for me anyway, it was a point to where I always was spiritual and whatnot, but I had a real conversation with God at one point. Like, man, I'm willing to be your vessel. You know, I can't run away from what my purpose is. This is what you need. I'm gonna release all my fear and doubt. I'm in your hands. So, you know, how has faith played a part for you in this?
Chaz, that's so beautiful, and God is speaking through you right now, because about a year ago I had the exact same conversation.
Right.
Where I'm looking around, and despite the way that the world is seeing me as this successful social entrepreneur that's doing all of these things and is traveling around speaking in all these places, internally I wasn't feeling this wholeness. I wasn't feeling this satisfaction, because I knew that I wasn't, despite what the world was seeing, I knew behind closed doors I wasn't living my life right. And it literally took full submission. I packed up all of my stuff and left the country and just traveled around for 2 months, not talking to anybody, not on social media, anything like that, just literally saying, God, I don't know what path I left, my finances, everything was just like all over the place. I was just like, right. God, you can have it all. You can have it all. And wherever you would have me to go when I get back off of this journey, that's the direction that I'm going to follow.
Right.
And I can look up 365 days later, and my entire life has turned around. Blessings overflow to a point that I'm just able to just pass them out like hotcakes, because God is blessing me in so many ways. And it took literally that full submission to say, God, like, it's one of my favorite lines is that man makes plans and God laughs.
Man, I like yes.
I like to believe that my life is like a Dave Chappelle stand-up for God. I was having this conversation yesterday with a young man, and he was telling me about how he puts in all of this work and he's always doing all of these things, but he's feeling like he's not really progressing. And I said, here's the thing with our generation is that oftentimes we don't realize that it takes two things, faith and action. Where we know a lot of people that have a lot of faith, they'll say, I'm going to be the next this, or I want to have this, or I need all of these things. We have all of these making our list, you know, fully believing like, let it rain from the sky, like these things are going to come. Or we see people that have a lot of action. Yep. They're like hamsters, just running on a wheel, waking up, just doing the same thing every single day. And then they look up and times went by and they're like, why am I in the same place?
Right.
But the great thing is, as a believer, when you have the opportunity to connect your faith with action, is when you start to see God working in very mysterious ways. And you look up and you say, golly, I didn't even know I could make it this far.
Yes, sir. Yeah, definitely. That was deep, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, we could go on for days about faith, because that's the number one component. Like, I'm with you, you know what I'm saying? You know, God, I know one thing about God, he helped those that want to help themselves. You know, I know that
100% of the time.
You know what I'm saying?
100% of the time.
Yeah, so tell me, you know, a little bit about your travel, you know, just that experience of traveling. I know you went to Africa, you know. What's that experience like for you when you got to travel and see the world? Because, you know, for me, real quick, when I traveled out of the States, and I met with the natives and then it's interesting to hear their point of view, just how they look at America, and not only America, how they look at blacks in America. It's almost like we waiting on y'all to get it together. You know what I'm saying, in America, and it's crazy to me. So, you know, what was your experience like, you know, just kind of traveling? Like, what was that? What did that do for you?
It did a lot of things, and I encourage everyone, you know, post-COVID, not encouraging anybody to travel right now, stay socially distant. But, you know, when things clear up, I encourage everybody to take some time and travel alone. You know, and really on that travel, seek the voice of God, Creator, Allah, Yahweh, whatever you see, divinity in your own life, just seek that voice. Mm-hmm. You know, I wouldn't recommend this to anybody. You know, when I often travel, I have no plans, even up to the point I don't know where I'm going to stay for the nights that I'm there.
Really?
I pick a date to leave and I go, and I leave it all in God's hands. But when you go to places like Africa and you're in the slums, it puts a lot of stuff in perspective. A lot of stuff in perspective. We all grew up, you remember, your grandmother would say when you would leave some food on the plate. You know, there's a kid in Africa starving, you better finish that.
Yep.
But until you actually get there and you see people feeding their goats and their chickens with trash, because that's all they got, it puts a lot in perspective.
Right.
Particularly, you know, the work that I do here in DC revolves around poverty, working in the largest housing project in Southwest. And even that makes it all relative. Where it's like, obviously, everybody has a right to a quality of life. Everybody has a right to justice, both in how they're living and in their physical environment, but also how they're able to live their life. But it broadens your scope of what the struggles in this world look like. And to know and to not do anything makes you just as bad as the person that is actually committing the act.
Right.
So me and my family have had an opportunity to continue to support a school over there, and just hoping to do our small part on the continent.
Definitely, man. Y'all definitely doing your part. So that's a good segue, because I want to ask a little bit more about, you know, Good Project, about the work that you guys do. I know it's you and a couple others that, you know, started this. But this, I'm gonna tie this into my next, what I call pillar, which is character. But just, can you dive in unpack a little bit about the work that you guys do, and, you know, how long you guys been doing this work? And then on top of that, how has character or morals help keep you guys, I guess what I'm trying to say is, give you that reputation, you know, that, you know, these are good, solid brothers here, they're trustworthy. Like, how has all of that, you know, been for you? Like, what is that like, this Good Project?
Well, Good Projects has a very simple goal, and it's to transition the families that are living in the Southwest housing communities out of poverty over the next 10 years. And when you think about poverty, it's very easy to tie that directly just to income.
Mm-hmm.
But when you continue to work in it long enough, exactly, you know exactly what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Poverty has a lot less to do with how much money somebody's making and how they view themselves in the world around them.
Yeah.
So a lot of the work that we do revolves around how do we shift mindsets. Obviously, we have components on financial literacy, and we want to continue to build up people's economics. But as we've seen too often in our culture and our community, you can give somebody a $3 million signing bonus, and they still gonna be the exact same person. You look up 15 years later, and they didn't get no better. Their family ain't get no better. Their community ain't get no better.
Yep.
We gotta do that hard work, looking to change the heart, the mind, and the soul. And that's what a lot of our focus is on.
So, like, how has that, how has, I know, listen, it's a struggle working for our people. I'm gonna just be blunt. You know, I know y'all hear me. It's not easy. You know what I'm saying? You know, for years, you know, Prophet's been trying to uplift the people, and it's been a hell of a task. So, you know, for you trying to change mindsets in the community, you know, how has that been? I know there's been a lot of, you know, tough times there, but especially now with COVID going on, but how has it been with gentrification? Like, how has the challenge been of, you know, going to these communities, changing the mindset alongside with gentrification coming down? Now we got COVID hitting us. Like, how has that struggle been?
I think the great thing is, when you look at the community that we work in, one of the blessings is that we work in housing communities that are owned by the federal government. So as there's all of this gentrification happening around them, those areas are they're staples, like they're not going anywhere.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, that makes the challenge even greater, because you're somebody that's growing up in this environment where you have mold on your walls and you see rodents coming in and out of your building every single day. But you can just look up and you see these big new constructions and rooftop pools and restaurants. And although it's only a few feet away from you, the world is unconsciously telling you, or consciously telling you, that this isn't something for you. That where you are is where you belong, and stay in these communities.
Yep.
You know, in Southwest, we've all been down there. If you've been to DC, there's beautiful waterfronts being built, new stadiums.
Yep.
I have people in our community only steps away from Audi Field. We invite them to a soccer game. They didn't even know that they had built a soccer stadium.
Yep,
this is 2 blocks away from their house.
Yep.
So it's like, until we get to a point where we're able to take our ownership and to take our kingship and our queenship and say that everything that is happening in this city is for us and that we belong, you know, it's always going to be an uphill battle. And that's what we want to continue to encourage, particularly to the young people that we work with. Don't think, I was actually having a conversation last night with somebody. I was out at dinner and we were sitting down at the Southwest waterfront, and there's 4 black people, and they were looking around. They was like, this is beautiful. The guy came back and visited, and he hadn't been in the city for 10, 15 years. And one of the gentlemen at the table said, yeah, they building all this up, but you know, they not building this for us. And I stopped him. I said, what do you mean they not building this for us? I can afford to eat at every single restaurant down here. Like, you know,
right.
Like, you know, the owners of these places are black people. The people, we have black banks in this city. Like, why aren't they building this for us? Like, our percentage points are dropping, but we still are the largest minority demographic or majority demographic in this city. Why aren't they building it for us?
That's interesting, because you know, what is that battle like as far as, because it's for unity is the key, right? So we in these communities, and it's like you said, it's not really the income necessarily, because as a whole, we have money as a people. We have the fun, we have money, but we don't pull our money together, our resources together to actually create. You know, like every other community has their own little Italy, Chinatown, you know what I'm saying? So what did you know, the message that you guys are trying, you know, when you're meeting these different families of unity and partnering with your neighbor, getting to know your neighbor and pulling your resources together, like what type of conversations are you having in that regard?
Yeah, group economics is something that has pushed groups forward since the beginning of time.
Yes, sir.
You know, you look at the plight of the black body in America, what has set us farther behind than, like you said, Little Italy. There's a Chinatown, not just everywhere in America. As the company talk about Africa, you go over to Africa, there's Chinatown starting to happen there.
Man.
You know, but you look at the black dollar, and this isn't something that people haven't heard before. It's what we have failed to do is create systems to pull our capital together to be able to create communities that we own, and not just from a land standpoint saying we own these 20 acres, but from a cultural standpoint, from a community standpoint, from a school standpoint, from a bank standpoint.
Right.
Like, we have all you look at economics, when black people don't spend, the economy doesn't move forward.
Exactly.
You know, we pushed Black Panther, as terrible as that movie is, to the top of the top of the top. You know, because that's what we rally behind it. Tyler Perry will be one of the richest men in history because black people continue to support him.
Yeah.
And it's example after example. But what we haven't been able to do is do it in a systematic way like other cultures have. You know, we drive and we lead on everything. Everything we lead on. Everything. And I don't say that abashedly. I don't have to hide and fear to say that out loud. We lead on everything. Just the way that our minds work, the creativity that we pull, the way that we're able to solve problems just based off our experience and having to deal with things.
We're the fathers and mothers of civilization, so it's only right. You know what I'm saying? It's only right. But let me shift, because you said something, but I think it's interesting because, like I said, everything happens for a reason, right? And you're living your purpose as you speak. So you work on Capitol Hill, you know, and so I guess politics to a degree, right? So
that's crazy. That's crazy to think about. Yeah, even at this age, I've had a few careers. Yeah.
So this is what interested to me, because I'm gonna ask this question because you work in politics, so it was something there for you to take away from that. But my question is, how have politics? Because you're doing a good work, right? And it's always when you, like I said, it's good versus evil. Evil, you're gonna get resistance from evil, right? So how have you seen, the politics try to give you resistance on the things that you're trying to push for? Like, how have you seen politics in that regard,
Yeah, I think the term is the Diocles sword. Meaning that anytime you set out on a journey to try to do good, evil is always just a few steps behind. When we talk about faith and we talk about believers, I think it's only right on this Sunday. That's why we almost had this story after story in the Bible of people that God blesses and they push them forward. And then, think about David and Bathsheba. You start feeling yourself a little bit. You like, ooh, she kind of cute. And then you like, oh, God won't mind. Let me just do something crazy for a second. And then God has to remind the folk, like, look, like, you on a mission, like, stay focused. I'm about to punish you a little bit, but let's keep going. And I say that in the context of your question, is that we always, when we're trying to do good, there's always people that are going to look at you and be like, I don't know. So let me try to make it just a little bit more difficult for them.
Yeah.
But the thing is, all I can ever do is control myself. I know my intentions when I wake up in the morning. I know the problems that I'm trying to solve.
Yep.
It isn't a day that goes by. Just this week, we dealt with some of the politics from a DC government agency in regards to a program we were running for the young people. But I don't have time to worry about those things. And when I was younger, I bought into it a little bit too much. Where I wanted to have conversations with people after it and try to get these agencies to change their mind. Or you talk about Capitol Hill. One of the reasons I left was because I realized we wasn't doing shit up there. Excuse my language.
No, I'm with you.
I see thousands of people coming in and out of these doors, and we can't even get a bill, past the first round. Like, what's going on, guys?
It's not in their heart. Yep.
But when you're out here trying to change the world, you can't worry about that stuff. Like, all you can do is just pray and believe that as long as you don't fall into the traps of the Bathshebas and continue to operate with the right intentions, that God is going to bless your journey. That nothing that they place into our heart was put there unless everything was already put in place for us to be able to achieve it and then some.
Right.
I operate with the belief that Quincy Jones teaches. He says he sleeps with a notebook next to his bed because God might come and give him a beautiful idea in the middle of the night, and he better be able to write it down quick, or God gonna take it down the street to his neighbor.
True story.
You know what I mean? Like, so I try not to think about the politics, because it's like God is constantly impressing stuff into my heart to say, these are different ways that I want you to show up in the world.
Right.
And I have a responsibility when that happens to show up and do that. Not to think about like, oh, what is such and such going to think? Oh, who's going to try to get in our way?
Right, definitely. Right. So that's dope. Because that brings me to my next pillar right here. Patience. How has patience been? Like, how is your patience one? But how has your patience been tested? Because you have all these great ideas and want to do good for this family, this community. But God is the best knower. So how has your patience been tested in this in your journey so far, and how you're moving? Like, can you speak a little bit on just the importance of having patience, and also how have your patience been tested?
I think just to remind the quote is, man makes plans and God laughs.
Yeah, I like that quote.
Man makes plans and God laughs. And to reiterate also is that once it's been placed in our heart, we have a calling to operate as if it's already done. So in many ways, you don't even need patience. You just gotta have faith. When I can talk about my own journey and the things that I'm working on, but I think it's more important for anybody that's listening to this, because God is constantly putting things in our minds and in our hearts. But we think, okay, it's too big, or oh, it's going to take too long. But all we really have a responsibility to do is just take one step at a time.
Right, yeah.
And sometimes we look up and we be like, oh, I didn't get as far as I wanted to go. But sometimes we look up too and be like, damn, I got a lot farther than I thought I would.
Right, because you took that step.
And we gotta count those highs with the lows.
Right.
You know?
You're preaching, you know. So basically, you're saying just celebrate the small wins as you know, as you go through this.
Every single day, and operate as if it's already done. You don't need patience when you believe. What do you need patience for? If you're operating with the mindset that whatever I've set out to do has already been done, it's already been completed, that God has already created a divine path for me to be able to achieve this thing and achieve it at a high level. You know, it's the easiness that comes over your heart when you start to operate in that way.
So, okay, I got a question. So what do you say to the ones that have the belief, okay, I have faith, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, God never breaks his promise, but, you know, and God says he will come and get his people or whatnot. But you see all this madness going on in the world, and your patience gets tested because even although I have faith, but I'm with you because it all makes sense. If you have faith, then you wouldn't be tripping with the madness that's going on in the world, because you know one day. So I think I just answered that question right there. Because I already know.
It was ironic. Me and my mom were just listening to a lecture. It was tying Plato to physics, and then that gets into the woods. But there's this allegory that Plato provided about a cave. And one of the more there's the literal world, and then there's the world that is operating in our head. And if the term is, if you only use your eyes to see, then you're blind. So in this allegory, you have people that are chained up and this puppet master behind, projecting these images against a wall, and all people see their entire lives in these images against the wall, and they think that's their entire world. And it's not until somebody breaks free are they able to look back and see, oh my gosh, there's been somebody projecting these images to me the whole time. And then they leave the cave, and then they go out and they see, oh my gosh, there's a big, beautiful world out here.
Right.
Like through media, through social media, through our day-to-day engagements, those are all of the things being projected against the wall.
Right.
Let's be honest, right? What is the world telling us right now? People are angry, people more divided than they ever been. Things on fire every single day.
Yep.
You know, like the images is like terrible time to be. COVID, you're gonna die. All of these things. Where it's more difficult to walk out into the world and say, the world is more connected than it's ever been. The world is filled with more love than it's ever been in the past. You know, there's more opportunity in the world, particularly for a black man or black woman or brown man or brown woman, than there ever has been.
Agreed.
You know, that's the difficult thing to do. But when you start to shift your mindset and look out into the world in that way, when you get rid of just looking at the images on the wall, you start to see that the world will shift around you, going back to patience, going back to faith, and all the other conversations that we've had today.
Right.
You know, that's how I choose to operate.
But then see, that's dope, man, because again, it's all mindset. Like you said, it's all mindset. Like this pandemic, I know for me and my wife, man, bro, this has been a blessing. This has been a blessing in disguise, man. Like for real. Like, you know what I'm saying? So you have to go out with that. You just have to click that mindset. But I guess that's just our jobs. This is why I have this conversation each and every week to kind of just drill in the idea of just mindset and you know, just taking that lock off our minds that we can do this or whatnot. So that's definitely interesting. I didn't even ask you about, you know, how did you feel about, you know, gun control, because I know that's part of your work that you doing too. But it's a lot of, but I don't like to stay on the negative, but it's still reality. It's a lot of feelings going on, and I feel like until, like I said, like we said earlier, until we're willing to help ourselves, God is not going to help those who's not willing to help themselves. And it's sad and unfortunate that, you know, we're still at war with ourselves of a self-hate, so how has that been for you, just trying to go into these communities, trying to stop the violence with the things of that nature. So just what did you take a little bit on where we at as a community as with self-hate and killing each other, because there's a lot been going on with that.
Well, Chaz, here's the thing. I think even in you asking the question, I can hear that you've started to form an opinion around this yourself. At the end of the day, God don't bless no mess. And one of the reasons I wasn't, in my own personal journey, wasn't able to necessarily to connect with everything that was happening in the protest movement as it started was because I am somebody that's on the front lines doing this work every single day.
Yeah.
The biggest threat to the communities that I work in aren't police. Most of the time, it's somebody that looks like me. We can spend a lot of time, energy, and effort trying to change the hearts and minds of people outside of our communities. And that's what we've seen over the last few months. Millions of people are taken to the streets under the name of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd.
Years. You've been doing that for years.
We've been marching for years. But at the same time, I remember being out the night after Brother McNeil was shot, the 11-year-old in Southeast. And the day before, I had been to a protest in front of the White House. There was 10,000, 15,000 people out there. We would have been lucky to have 10, 15 people for the march for Davon. So it was actually, it becomes very easy. And we've been talking a lot about faith today. It becomes very easy to point the fingers at others.
Yep.
And say, that's a flaw that person has, they need to fix. But the more difficult thing to do is to take a look in the mirror. And this is not for me to say that I'm perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I challenge myself on a regular basis to continue to try to improve and do it in a real way. But it's like we have to take time as a community and ask ourselves, where can we improve? While we're waiting on the world to change around us, how do we continue to move forward with the tools that we have already?
And that's crazy. You said we're waiting on the world, but the world is waiting for us to be the change. Because I believe we are the change. Like you said, we drive every industry. Until we change, we can change the world. And that's just conversations I had with natives when I traveled. Like, what's up, America? What's up, brothers? We need y'all to kind of wake up. You know what I'm saying? And but yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's just like it's the old adage to control the controllables. Like, we can't control how a white person views us or a police officer views us. We can try to influence how they view us, but what we can control is how we view ourselves. What we can control is what we portray to the world when we step outside of our door every single day. And it goes back to an earlier point, is that how can we ask anybody to love us until we've gotten to a point where we can confidently say that we love ourselves?
Right.
We talk about gun violence, and I think there's something that we haven't looked deep enough into, just as a community, as a society, as a country, is why haven't we began to associate the level of gun violence that happens in the Black and brown community as a form of suicide? You can't tell me that a young man wants to live and loves themselves when they're standing out on the block at 3, 4 a.m. in the morning, knowing that they have people that are gunning for their life. You can't tell me that somebody loves themselves and wants to live when they're running down Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue in broad daylight, shooting into a crowd.
Yep.
You can't tell me that somebody loves themselves and wants to live when they're staying up for 3, 4 days in a row, popping pills, not having eaten nothing. You can't tell me that's somebody that wants to live.
Right.
So yeah, we'll continue to have issues around gun violence until we get to a point where we raise up our communities and we make people feel valued and give them a reason to want to continue to be on this earth. Because if they value themselves, then they can begin to value those around them.
Yep. That was, Yes, that was a lot, and that's very true. So I'm gonna end it with this one. I'm gonna talk about my last pillar, which is will, right?
Yeah.
So each individual is like a puzzle, right? Each individual, plays a part in this puzzle, putting this puzzle together. So everybody, I believe, has value they can bring to the whole, right? But
Sure.
it's just, and I feel like I feel like I know you answered on me, but when I talk of will, I'm talking about once that glass ceiling that's there that we can break through, but it got fear. So let me ask you, doing this work, being on the front lines, being in these streets, or just pushing good and unity, are you fearful? I think I know the answer, but just for the listeners, how do you combat that fear that, hey man, I may lose my life and going out here. And not only in my own community, but I may lose my life by the forces that be, because they don't like what I'm doing to raise my people. Like, you try not to think about it, but what is your mindset like? Are you accept that basically?
To be honest, Chad, it's not even something that I spend a second of my day thinking about.
Good. Yep.
I've watched generation after generation before me go out and do this work fearlessly.
Yep.
Who am I? The second that I'm doing this work with fear in my heart means I need to be doing something different. And that probably means that I'm not living my life right. if I'm walking around with fear. I'm blessed to have been embraced by a community that, in the same way that I'm loving and supporting them, they're doing the same thing. I was sick a few weeks ago and I got people from the community calling me, checking on me, if I'm okay.
Yep.
I live right off of Minnesota Avenue now in Northeast. It's not the best community in the world. The brothers standing out on the corner like the best of them, but I wave at them every single day. Like, hey, what's up, guys?
Yep.
They know they can come knock on my door. We asking each other for sugar and stuff now, and that's the type of vibe we creating over there. That they can knock on my door for me. Put me in. It sounds like a cliche, but put me in a den of wolves. We gonna all come out together, holding hands.
Yeah, yes sir.
I would only hope, and I pray this often, is that I ask God that when people hear me speak, that they hear His voice. That when I have the opportunity to embrace somebody, I pray that they feel the touch of God. And I've been blessed throughout my life that every community that I've had the opportunity to be a part of, as long as I'm entering it with the right intentions, that I'm embraced and that I'm loved, and I start to see the change shifting around me. I can't operate with fear. It's just literally not in my DNA, because I know that I'm on a purpose, and I know that God wouldn't put me in a position where any harm would come to me. Like, I follow the journey that God puts me in. I don't make plans and say, all right, I need to be here because I feel important here or something like that. No, I go to places that God will have me called to be, and I know that if He's going to put me in those places, then I'm protected, and I can walk around with the confidence, knowing that I'm good.
Yes.
But at the same time, still got to be smart though.
Yeah, definitely. So I just I figured I knew that was the answer, but just to wrap up, man, for the listeners though, because I come across, meet so many people, but it's really that doubt and fear that holds everyone back. So what can you just tell them, or anyone, anyone that wants to help and that wants to be on the front lines, or just want to get in the community and get involved but don't know where to start, or they're kind of scared a little bit or have fear? Like, what message can you tell them?
Like, do you wear a mask right now when you leave out the house when you go to the grocery store?
Out of respect, yes. Yeah. Well,
why do you do that?
Just out of respect, one, for authorities and my neighbor, so you have everyone going to the store applying by it. So out of respect for them, I don't, no, you got no issue here. I'm gonna abide by it, so we can get along.
So can you see COVID?
No, sir.
Can you smell it?
You can't. I'll take it back. I can't smell it, but I in a way I can see it. If I go spiritually, then I can see it all day. But Physically, no.
Can you hear it?
No.
But everybody around us, every time we step out the door, got a mask on. Because there's this like underlying thing, like, okay, I know it's around me. It's always around me. So something that we can't see, something that we can't hear, something that we can't touch, we believe in enough to be like, all right, I need to wear this mask because I need to protect myself. Why can't we have that same level of trust and faith in ourselves? Like the Bible talks about faith is things hoped for and the evidence of things unseen. You know, when you walk from one room to the next, you believe that there's oxygen and you ain't gonna like pass out.
Right.
When you set up this camera and you sat down, I'm sure you didn't look down to see if the chair was still there.
Right.
You know, it's all of these that we don't even realize. In any given day, we're trusting in all of these things around us, except for ourselves.
Yep.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, so at the end of the day, my message to everyone would just be, and I'm not saying you got to be a Christian, you don't got to be a Buddhist, you ain't got to be a Muslim, but the Bible talks about that we're all made in the image of Christ.
Yes, sir.
And with that being said, we should all have this belief, whether you're black, brown, white, yellow, green, something in the middle, that there's a divinity that exists within each and every one of us. To say that if there's something that we want in the world, that we have everything that we need, all the tools in our tool belt to go and achieve that, particularly in a place like America.
Yeah.
And we are blessed to be living here. We are blessed to be living in this moment in time where literally we can make our wildest dreams come true.
Yep.
You can start anywhere you want along the spectrum in America, whether you living in poverty in a community in Southwest or you growing up on the top floor of the tallest penthouse in New York. Everybody has the opportunity to be and do whatever that they want to do.
Yep.
And there's a huge responsibility that comes with that, but like this amazing amount of joy. People that are listening to this, whether they listen to it today or 10 years from now, should be encouraged. I get excited every morning that I wake up. You see me, it'd be a little weird if we ever find ourselves, you get to see me in the morning when I'm waking up, I wake up with a smile on my face.
That's what's
because
up.
I'm like, this is another opportunity for me to go out here, and God is still believing in me enough to be in the game. You know, he subbed me in.
Definitely. Yeah. Yep. Yes.
So if God believes in us enough to put us in the game, like that's all I need. That's all I need. You know what I mean?
Hey, amen to that. Listen, man, I appreciate you, man, tapping in and, dropping the jewels you did. I hope, we brought value to the listeners again. Like I said, I hope that after this, even to connect with you more and, down the line, do some things together, get some stuff done, man. So, again, I appreciate you, and I'm sure my listeners, everyone appreciates you too, brother. Keep doing what you do. We're praying for you out here. We got your back, so definitely, I appreciate that.
No, and I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I appreciate all the listeners. Who would I be if not for you and the people that take time out of their day to support this type of work? I'll just be a guy sitting talking to myself.
Right.
I'm just a human being like everybody else. I'm just somebody that isn't afraid to take risks and believes wholeheartedly in the things that I do. I'm no different. I'm no smarter. I'm probably a little bit taller than most people, but I didn't have access to any more resources when I first got started. It just took one step after the next, after the next, after the next. So I appreciate you, brother, and every single person that took time out of their Sunday to listen in.
Yes, sir, man. Like I say, man, mental breakthrough, man. Darius Baxter, man. Again, appreciate you, man, and definitely I'll keep in touch with you, brother. Yes, sir.
Thank you, brother.
Have a blessed Sunday, man. Tell my moms have a blessed Sunday, man.
Yeah, she right here.
Have a blessed Sunday, yes, ma'am. Thank you. You did a wonderful job, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, brother. Thank you, man.
All right, man. Peace. Yes, sir. Well, another Sunday, man. Another day, another blessing, man. Listen, that was a great conversation with Darius Baxter. Good Project DC. He's in these streets, man. For the impoverished. Did I say that right? And violence. He's trying to put an end to that. And he's out here doing good work, man. So, but again, each and every week, I'm gonna keep drilling that. I'm gonna drive that point home, man. You gotta have faith. You can't be fearful. You gotta have, character and the willpower to go out and do what your purpose is. And that's the theme you're gonna catch every week, because it's crazy, it's real out here, man. Everybody has some value they can bring to the table. Just tap into that shit, man. Sorry for cussing, but tap into that. So it's what it is. I'm out. Enjoy the rest of this Sunday with your family or whatnot. That's what I'm about to do. So holla at y'all next week, man. I'm gone. Peace.